Good afternoon. How's everyone doing today? So you can tell all of us corporate colleagues, because we're the ones wearing suits, and we notice the challengers in the back are all in their sneakers. So we have a little, you can tell who's doing what. So it's really a pleasure to be with you here today to talk about digital disruption when it comes to healthcare. And at Bayer, we're really fortunate that we get to look across the healthcare span of human, animal, and plant health. So who here has heard of this company, Bayer, however you say it? Yeah, hopefully many of you weren't taking any aspirin today. So Bayer is over 150 years old, and we started when two guys named Friedrich out near the Rhine River got together and said, there's a better way to make dyes for clothing. And so instead of the more costly dyes that came from plants, they went and came up with a synthetic way to use chemicals to make synthetic dyes. And so using this expertise in chemistry and following the market trends, Bayer became a huge global player in the field of chemistry. And when you know something really well, when you know your core competencies really well, you can apply it to many areas. So we grew in material science and plastics. We grew in human, animal, and plant health. And of course, now you know, probably from the news last week, our material science is moving into its own company, and Bayer is embarking on a new journey as a strictly life sciences company. And this is very exciting for us because when it comes to life sciences, there's one really nice unifying factor: the cell. And at Bayer, we are experts in cellular processes. So whether you're looking at human cells or animal cells or plant cells, the cellular processes and how they interact are very similar. So let's talk about digital disruption. Somebody outside had asked, what does Bayer do in digital? And I had to stop and think, are they being serious? Because digitalization and new technologies have always been part of our business. It's how we discover new molecules going through high-throughput screeners constantly 24/7 through our laboratories, through our product supply and manufacturing, how we get the products to you, how we make sure they're working, and how we follow up with our customers. And digitalization has really transformed every single element of our business. And so at Bayer, instead of saying we're going to have a digital silo, late last year we took the step of, as an organization, saying we're going to approach this holistically. Digitalization is not just a tech topic for our company, it impacts every area of our business. So when we talk about digital at Bayer, we talk about it as a people topic, because it's about how we connect, how we interact, how we engage with our customers, with the other parts of our business, with our partners, and that really enables us to do what we do even better in this opportunity of digitalization. So when it comes to the digital revolution, it's not our first revolution. We're 150 years old. You know, the Industrial Revolution was a challenge. The digital revolution is a great opportunity. So we're having a lot of fun coming together, working across silos, looking for the synergies of human, animal, and plant health and how we approach it. And we've got a strong statement of support both from our board members and from our CEO of Bayer, CEO of Bayer Healthcare, Werner Baumann, and of Crop Science, Liam Condon. And so we approach it jointly, looking across the business and how it impacts all of us. Now, there's one aspect that Matthias from Axel Springer brought up this morning, and he said two things that really stuck, and I hope all of you took notes. He said at Axel Springer's, no silos, and know your core competencies. And that's pretty much the approach we're taking as well. When it comes to digitalization, for the first time, you're able to connect platforms, connect people, connect systems that we couldn't connect before. And so this helps us to do what we did better, faster, more efficiently, and get a nicer output. So bridging the silos, there must be something in the German water, because Axel Springer and Bayer are taking a very similar approach there. Now, know your core competencies, we're focused on that as well. And as I said earlier, our core competencies is cellular pathways, which means for the digital component, we're partnering with a number of organizations, with a number of startups, with a number of the challengers that you'll hear in the next section, to help us reach beyond and to complement our core competencies to meet the needs of the changing healthcare environment. So now we talked a little bit about Bayer, let's talk a little bit about that changing healthcare environment. When it comes to the areas of human, animal, and plant health, technology is enabling a radical shift where instead of before focusing on creating a product and selling a product, we're now looking at a very different approach. It's not just the product anymore, it's the product plus. And so you move into this transition from going of selling a product to selling an outcome, selling a performance, selling a yield. And we couldn't do this before, but now with data and analytics and predictive modeling and new tools, you're going to see this shift. And that's going to radically challenge everything in our fields. Because for so long in our pricing models and in our development, we looked at how to sell something. And now we're focusing much more on the outcome. How do we get an outcome? And it makes sense, right? You don't buy a car, you don't buy a car that's not going to drive. You want the outcome. You buy a service to get something. So we're working a lot with governments, with regulators, with partners to see how do we make that jump? How do we make that transition? And this is an area where I know when I talk about governments and regulators, this crowd here probably cringes. But the governments are a very powerful force, and regulators are a very powerful force in making these changes. Before I joined Bayer, when I was with the US government and then with doing my master's research at Yale, I was part of a team that was hired by CMS to create an outcome measure. And at the time, this was crazy talk. No one thought for a second that we'd ever move to a model, especially with CMS, Medicare, Medicaid, which covers the healthcare of 80 million Americans. No one ever thought we'd move to a model other than paying for a service, paying for a product. And this transition of paying to outcomes, 30-day all-cause readmission rates, paying hospitals based on how the patients do, that's revolutionary. And little groups and little insurers and hospitals could do that on their own, but it wasn't until the government, until CMS, took it and brought it across the entire country and made it apply to all of the hospitals and evened out the incentives that we really saw transformative change. Which brings me to my last point that I hope all of you will remember. We've talked so much about disruption today. We've talked a lot about disruption. The time is now here to move beyond talking about disruption and to talk about how we do the opposite of disruption. So disrupting things breaks it apart, it challenges it, it does something differently, it pulls away, it takes you out of your normal way of doing things. What we need now is the opposite. We need to bring things back together. We need to unify, we need to heal, we need to develop. So you see this all throughout healthcare. There's been amazing digital disruptions that have the potential to radically transform our business, to transform human, animal, and plant health, but they haven't. And if you think back over the last 10 years, it's a little disappointing that we've had so much development in digital and so little public health impact. You know, when Bayer was started, the average life expectancy was around 40. And now it's over double that. And that hasn't been due to single technologies, but it's been to broad public health measures that are applied across a population, across a country, across the world. And so as we move into this next phase, going beyond disruption, moving into development, I'd like to challenge all of us here to look at how we take the disrupted pieces and how we work together to bring them into something new, and to take the disrupted parts and develop it into the next phase, which will get us closer to what we all work for at Bayer, science for a better life. Thank you.